People, you and me, we are going on this digital journey too. And at the moment, right now, most of the people working in technology are men. It's just a fact. Companies are missing out, though, on a lot of potential by not bringing more women on board. So why aren't they bringing more women on board? Here to tell us are some women who have fantastic decades of experience in the industry. Please welcome our panel, Andrea Pfundmeier. She's the founder and CEO of Secomba. Marika Lulay, she's the COO of GFT Technologies. Marika. And Martina Merz, she sits on the board of companies we all know, companies like Lufthansa, Volvo, and Beckert and SAF in Holland. Welcome, have a seat. And of course, we do have one token man, Frank Riemensperger of Accenture. He's our moderator for this panel. Thank you very much, Frank.
Thanks a lot, appreciate it. Thank you. Hi, everyone. The topic of our discussion is now the diversity and competition, the female factor of digital disruption. And we're going to explore, is there a female factor and why? I'm really looking forward actually to our panelists. Martina, can I start with you, introducing you? Martina had a long-standing career actually as a mechanical engineer in Bosch, 25 years. And she left her role. She became a supervisory board member of many prestigious companies, including Lufthansa, Volvo, SAF Holland. But you told me yesterday you left your role because you want to learn something new. So great to have you, Martina. We have Marika. Marika and I actually know each other for a few years, as well as the code-end relationship. And you are one of the few women at the top of a consulting company, of an IT company, and you told me in the preparation you don't have a special women program. You're going to explore that going forward. And last but not least, Andrea, great to have you. You are a CEO and the owner and founder of a startup, or co-owner of a startup. So I think we have diversity on the panel already, and obviously me, Frank. I'm running our Accenture business. And let me start. The topic is diversity and competitiveness. And I'll start a little bit with my own observations in the digital industry. In Accenture, we do basically a comparison on how many females do we have working in our company, every country of the world. And I have to report, and I'm not very proud of that, I have to report we have more than 30% women working for us in Germany, so 32, 33. But when I compare that on an international level, we are at the very bottom of all the countries at the world. And as far as I know, actually, we have more women working for us than all our competitors and many of the other industries. Though there seems to be something not right, Either, and we are trying to explore that. Either we don't train the women to join companies like us or join other industrial companies. Either we don't help them enough to have a career, or we don't create the environment as an economy so that you can have a career. And quite frankly, I think, personally, that will become a problem. Because this country is based on innovation. This country is based on exports. And the way and the pace of innovation has turned up the dial. It's so fast that we have to find new tricks to pick up speed. And if you have only unilateral teams, all the same education, all the same age, all the same direction, maybe we will lose the game for the complete wrong reason. That's what I like to start, put in the middle, Martina. What are your views on diversity and staying competitive in this country, staying competitive in our industries?
So good morning, everybody. Great that you're here. Especially welcome to the ladies here in the room. First, yes, I strongly believe, Frank, that the disruption and this digital transformation process supports overproportionally women. And this is because along with this transformation, many companies flatten their hierarchy. They develop a more decentralized structure. This decentralized structure offer smaller teams at the end of the day. These teams are very often, because they develop their own business model and they get the task to somewhat put this business model online. So with this smaller cross-functional team, you have much more P&L responsibility already on a lower level of the organization. And that is first fun for the team, because you have very directly your results. You know what you do and you know what's the result of what you're doing, and you do it in a team which is very inclusive, and typically within the team there is a lot of interpersonal support, and that creates fun to work for and fun to work with.
So Martina, what you're saying is, actually our business structures are changing. Flat, decentral, smaller teams, more accountability on the top. And what you're saying as well, you have to have more diversity in these teams to come to better outcomes.
Exactly, yes.
Okay. Marika, can you see that in your own business? What is your experience and how did you make it to the top?
So first of all, I think diversity is a topic since the 90s, and everybody knows that diverse teams perform better, but that's not new at all. I agree with Martina that the disruption, the new technology enables, for example, distributed teams to perform better. It enables people to work partially from home and therefore rather go into a work-life blend, and that's very much what we do at GFT. So it's all about, so the today way to lead and to work together is about being individualized, family-friendly, but still put the priorities where they should be. So either there is an emergency in the company, something needs to be fixed, and everybody has to be all hands at desk, regardless where they work from, or maybe there is a private issue, and then this person, whether it's a female or a man, needs support from the company. That's why I say today it's about being more individualized to support diverse teams, and ultimately it leads to be more family-friendly. Yeah. And technology definitely helps. Yeah.
Let me pick up on the one thing you just said. Individualized work relationship. Yes. Do you believe we're going to be more attractive employer if we really open up as a society, as an industry society, to individualized work contracts?
I full-heartedly believe that, especially when you look into the famous Generation Y, which everybody talks about. The Generation Y wants more individual leadership. They want the company to think about them, and they want to know what's the value the company provides to me, the team provides to me, and then I'm ready to provide value back. Which is very different to the old leadership styles, which was, I tell you what you should do, and all I commit is I pay your salary. Yeah? Which is for sure a fundamental relationship, the salary thing, should not be discarded, but still. So I think that this individualization fits very well with the Generation Y. The good thing is that the tech industry, where I'm working in for the last 30 years, was always about prima donnas and mavericks. So we probably, from an industry culture, fit very well with the Generation Y.
So I agree to that, actually. I think we have to work harder now. Andrea, you took the shortcut and out of the gate you became CEO. You founded Secomba. You have a winning product with Brock Scripter. And, just don't do that all career development. You just started as CEO. How come? What is your experience? And we just heard about Generation Y. Do you have different values in that generation than ours?
I hope not. So I hope we have the basic same values. So from my experience, when I grew up, I always had the picture in mind that I have to work in a large company to be successful. So also for my parents, it was clear that after university, I should go to a big corporation to be successful, and they never saw startups as an option for me. So when I told them right after graduation that I want to start my own company, they were really frustrated. So they were
all the investment gone, or
exactly all the investment gone, and they didn't dare to tell the neighbors what I'm doing now. So it was difficult for them. But during my studies, I already started to work in large companies, and I never felt complete in these companies. I always wanted to do my own stuff. I wanted to take on new challenges, and I found this in my own company. So I started right after university together with a co-founder, and the only thing we knew was that we wanted to start a company. So the first idea failed, so the first product was never released. The first idea was buried a couple of weeks after we started. But out of this experience, we had the idea for Bugscripter, and this is what we're doing still today. So since more than 5 years, we are fully working on this company.
Can you say 2 or 3 sentences what Bugscripter does?
Sure, it's an encryption software optimized for cloud storage. So if you want to encrypt your Dropbox, your Google Drive, your iCloud, or any other provider, you can use our software to encrypt it and make sure that your data is protected.
That's cool. And you studied commercial law.
Exactly.
CEO of an encryption company.
Yes. It sounds strange, but I was always interested in technology. So my father brought home one of the very first mobile phones. We had the only computer in our home was located in my room. So I learned a lot about technology by myself. And when I studied, I was more interested in law and economics, but I continued to be interested in technology. So I read blogs about technology, and when I found my co-founder, who's a software developer, I always asked him, can you tell me more about this and that, about encryption and how does it exactly work? So I think if in general you're interested in a topic, you can always learn it even if you don't have to study it.
That's great, Andrea. Martina, wouldn't we in big companies like to have employees like Andrea?
Actually, first, I'm a customer of Andrea, and therefore I'm really proud to meet you here now today. Great. In bigger companies, I would say, and at least my own career, would lead me to a slightly different advice, Andrea. So I feel competence in a certain area. So I studied mechanical engineering, factory automation processes. And to me and my career, it was always important that I felt what I say is important, is right, is a fact. Nobody can tell me that 1 + 1 is 2.2. Instead, I was 100% sure it's 2 only. So to me, competence was the base of showing my individuality, of being a woman in a male world, I would say. It's easier to be a person and to show that you're in a minority, that you have your individual character when you can trust your competence. So I would always say competence is definitely helpful and helps women to have a happy life in a male-dominated environment.
But you defined now competence, let me just probe on that, as content. You said you were a mechanical engineer, production automation. How the other things, entrepreneurship, ability to engage people, being inspirational. Isn't that what we need in the digital age?
It is, but it's all not credible when your personal authenticity is low. Being a leader, inspiring others, depends fully on how credible you are, on how authentic you are as a person. Of course, to lead a team, to run a company requires to learn about balance sheets and all what's required in addition to a certain base competence. But I'm with Andrea in that regard. I think typically we can learn that. We can learn, and when we need some special know-how, we hire specialists, experts who help us with the know-how. But personal authenticity, integrity, and being a credible person is absolutely key. And I think that is extremely important for a female, for happiness in your job, whether it's a woman or a man.
I'll come back to that because I think that's interesting. But I think you're right, there's no shortcut around substance and contents. But the question is it enough? Marika, at GFT, you said you don't have special women program, yet you have a lot of women working for you What is your secret sauce? How do you do that?
To actually do not care whether it's a woman or a man. And I seriously say, so in GFT, and I know we have some GFT people here, hello by the way, in GFT we actually do not believe in any sort of discrimination, neither positive for sure, not negative. So for us, it's very important when we hire people, when we promote people, that they fit to our core values, that they are competent. I fully agree with Martina. The more they go up in the higher levels, they need to develop things like managing political capital, managing relationships, ego maturity, and that is important for men and women. There is simply no difference. I think there is a difference when you are more into a family, because then you maybe have limitations at home. We very much support that. Again, whether it's a man or a woman. For sure, by definition, we are also measuring our women quota. We have to, but we don't believe that this is the right driver. We want to get the right people, the best people, and again, we rather look for the core fit to our company, not for the sex.
Now that addresses the fairness question and say, no prejudices and no discrimination. But the working hypothesis of this panel today is, if you have more diverse team, more mixed gender team, you are more competitive. Is that true? Are you observing that?
I fully agree.
Examples?
Yes, I fully agree. But diversity is not just sex. It's also about age. It's about nationalities, cultural background, and also competence. I mean, you studying law, mechanical engineer, I studied computer science. That per se is diverse, although we're all women. We may provide different views, although we're all women. So we very much believe in diversity in all aspects, not just the gender part of it. Yeah?
Do you have an example where a non-diverse team, let's say all male, all old, all whatever, is less competitive than a diverse team? To illustrate that, what happens? What's the dynamic of the diversity?
The dynamic of diversity is that people provide different views. And that per se leads to better solutions, because you do not only think in applying the same strategy to always various problems, but maybe different strategies, whether it's about preparing an offer to a client, solving an escalation, and sometimes you need hardcore competence, content, sometimes people who can provide more a view from how do we deal with the people, how do we make them feel good, especially in an escalation, and these different views make the team perform better. We have a sentence in GFT that it's the team who succeeds, not the hero. And I think this focus on quote and all that stuff goes on this one person makes it, but we very much believe in teams. So we try to ensure there is diversity in the team provided, which again are different things, not just the gender as such. Yeah. So we do have complete male teams, to be very clear, it happens. We have very seldom complete female teams, but even that happens. But that's irrelevant for us, it's about the diversity as such. So for example, given a concrete example, the management team at the next level of GFT is 9 different nationalities out of 14 people.
That's impressive.
That's diversity, right?
Which language do you speak?
English.
I think we're getting to the core. In order to be diverse, you cannot skip 50% of the population. I think that's what we're starting here. But there's more to diversity than just a gender mix. And there's one important thing. You just started to talk about millenniums or Generation Y. Andrea, from your perspective, do you see differences from your age group or your generation to one above or two above, or maybe the 14 years old kids old? Do you see the dynamics changing? What is important for them? What's important for your age group?
I think it's not necessarily combined to the age, but also to what kind of personal situation you are in. Mm-hmm. So in our company, we have everything. So we're not 100% diverse in matter of age. So I think our oldest employee is 35, but things happen. So, but nevertheless, we also have parents with children. And we see that there's a difference in how they work, although they are the same age, compared to people who, for example, don't have children. So when people don't have children, they often ask for flexible working hours. They want to like come late, stay longer in the office, or also like be more flexible. And when they have children, they suddenly start to ask for fixed hours. They tell me, oh, I need to be at the office at 8 because I need to leave my child at the nanny or wherever, and I need to leave at 4 p.m. to go back home. So I think what the millennials are always like asking for, like to work free and to have no limitations, I think it can change once you have a third party besides you and the job who is asking for your time. But of course, what we see or what I see is that family time is very important, and also to be able to follow other things besides work. Yeah. So most of our employees, they go to workshops, they want to go to events and see other things outside the office. They don't want only to work on one thing, but they want to see different things.
Do you think the old work contract where you do one thing 9 to 5 are dead with no flexibility?
Depends on the kind of job. So I think in most jobs it's not that anymore, but of course there are jobs where it's important to have people who also like that. So it's not that 100% of all millennials don't want to have strict rules and strict tasks. So we also have part of our teams who's working, for example, in the customer support, who want strict rules, who want to know what do I need to do in this situation and when can I leave the office. So it depends on the people, but I think for most of the jobs, at least in the digital environment, it's true that people don't want to do one task all day long.
Yeah. The one thing you mentioned, which I think is interesting, is that this not only that we have to hyper-individualize for the person, but the family situation changes, your environment changes, so you have to individualize based on context, and as an employer, you have to basically say, yesterday we had this arrangement, today we have this one, and maybe tomorrow we need that one. Now, Martina at Bosch, 25 years, outside in, it looks like a very competent company. A lot of engineers, many of them look all the same, by the way, from outside in. Is it easy for a company to flat hierarchies, self-controlled teams, very individualized work contracts, where people over time redefine what they are for the company? Is that something the large players in Germany can do, or are they hopefully just lost?
I think it's, and it's widely known to everybody. You know, as an employer, you want to be fair. Means you want to, you have to absolutely give everybody equal opportunities. This means when you allow your white-collar workers, the graduates, the people in the offices, in the engineering departments, you allow them this work-life blend. You know, you do not work from home. Whatever necessary to have an optimal combination, and that people can apply their work time best to their life all over. Then the question comes up, and what are you doing with all the guys in your manufacturing departments? Where you have still shifts, where you have, in order to have, let me say, cost competitiveness, as brutal as it is, you have to make compromises. And I think this is the challenge of society. This is not the challenge of big companies. Here we have to learn to keep a society together, while not everybody can do the same. And I can only motivate people, and I think big companies, and Bosch is doing it. Diversity means also that not everybody has the same working environment, not everybody has the same working contract, not everybody has the same working conditions. We have to live with it. It is like it is.
Is it conceivable, you know, if you really think lateral, we're going to a digital environment, we're going to a platform economy. Is it conceivable that, you know, I as Frank, and I'm just challenging now, basically, if I want to have my hyper-individualized work contract, I put my capability on a platform and I say, in terms of working hours, I like that one best. In terms of insurance, I like that one best. In terms of benefits, I like to have this little tweak. So I start configuring from a menu of options what's right for me. You know, in my thinking is, if that could be the future, all the companies who do not offer that are dead.
I would say, Frank, sorry to say that it depends fully on your competitiveness. Of course, if you are the biggest loser under the sun, nobody would want any hour from you. While if you are the greatest talent in the war of talents, everybody would book hours with you. So it depends, and I think this is what it is today. We have to make the difference between you good and great, and we want that. We want to make the difference. And when we want to make the difference, we only do that when we live up to our own capabilities the best. And we have to do that in a way which is the best for our life. All what counts is to make the difference, and that requires that we can bring our best into an environment which allows us to do so.
Now, we have the best people in the audience. I like to stay on that point. You know, we are running into a war of talent. And we as an industry need to pick up speed. The problem in our industry, and that is now the competitiveness and the link to the diversity, it's not that we are lacking content in this country. I don't think we're lacking competence. We're lacking open innovation, we're lacking creativity, we're lacking speed. And now, all of our audience here, these are the guys we'd like to have to work for us. Startups, GFT, Bosch, Lufthansa, Accenture. And suddenly, you know, we're competing for the view we have in the country. Isn't it a way that if you don't offer the flexibility, that the best will just say, who's ever the most attractive in terms of all the things will make the race? Will that be the new norm? Marika, your thoughts?
Welcome to the war of talent, which actually exists also since 20 years, right? So I think the answer is, unfortunately, both. We will see both. I mean, and let me compare this with a very strange comparison. It just came to my mind when you talked about this highly individualized work contract, where even you could see auctions going on, right? Where I'm as a worker, I offer my conditions and I let the companies bid for. I mean, that's the ultimate dream of a true prima donna, right? And we have those in the IT industry. We both know that. On the other hand, we have the requirement from the companies to organize shift work, to provide reliable services to the client, and therefore not everybody can just choose when they come to work. We must organize it intelligently. This seems to clash, but I think both will simply exist. And I think, yes, only that company will survive, where the management develops the management competence to manage that contradiction and to take to take a good judgment when to do what. And it will be a challenge because this old leadership style from the mid-60s, very much also agreed between the unions and the employers, we treat everybody the same, doesn't mean it's fair, right? And this, we treat everybody the same, that is that, Frank. Doesn't mean that we might not have, like in the car industry, and that was the example I want to go to, there was a moment when you bought a car, you bought the car which was provided by the manufacturer. The famous sentence, you can have every color as long as it is black, right? Then we entered into an area where you could configure your car, and the manufacturers died in complexity of the combination of variables. And actually the customers even got lost. What do you get today? Pre-packaged versions, and you as a client can choose, and you still could go to the highly individualized car, and then you pay a lot. Yeah? And probably we see the same in the working relationship between employees and employers. Pre-packaged conditions, a bit pre-packaged, which makes life easier, and also for the companies to organize, and highly individualized for certain aspects. And yes, Frank, management will become even more complex, and that's probably good for us, right?
That could be. I just kind of take that as we have to have the ability to mass customize. It needs to feel individual, but we need to be able to manage it. And probably, yes, you're right, there's a fairness question. Now, you have big companies at your fingertips. You're at the top, and you have the issue that you have the organization, you need to change them. Andrea, you have how big is your team?
We're a team of 30 people.
30 people, 10 years out. What do you think you're going to be at? How, size, and what is the culture you'd like to be at in 10 years from now? Because you can grade it all from the new.
So, as a startup, we're happy if we know what happens tomorrow. So Of course, in 10 years, I hope that the company will be bigger, but so we're not planning it precisely. So what's important for us is to keep the startup spirit. So although we are 5.5 years old, so we wouldn't maybe like classify for a real startup anymore, but we try to keep the flexibility we have, and also to try to be as open as possible to new ideas. So when people come up with new ideas, it doesn't matter if they are interns, if they have been working for a long time for the company, it's the best idea that counts. But still, as we're growing, we see that there are certain limitations. So sometimes we have to behave bossy and to tell people what to do, because otherwise stuff wouldn't get done. And it's a difficult balance to find the right way to treat people in a way that they get better and that they provide the best output to the company. And it's something we're working on every day. So for example, when we started, we mainly had men in the team. And it was very, very difficult to find the first woman who wanted to work in a team with only men. Because, of course, the culture is different if there are only men, and they were like rude and not very polite. And when we had the first woman there, we told her at the beginning, it's a team of 10 guys, so are you willing to work in that team, and are you ready like to put out your elbows and to behave like a woman and to stand your man? And it was difficult, but it worked out.
So culture, innovation, ideation, keep that, and then develop presence. We are running out of time. Maybe a quick summary, one word. What's your recommendation for a company to go on that diversity and that change journey to be more competitive? What is the one thing to focus on?
Diverse teams, regions, gender, age.
Just watch out for that. Marika?
My advice would be to the companies, simply be courageous and try out things.
Courage?
I would say just try it out. It doesn't hurt, and you can only benefit.
Try and live. And I think this brings it together. Great panel. Industries are changing. Digital's changing industries. You're going to have flat hierarchies, decentral structures. We're going to have cross-functional teams, more accountability at the top. I think we will all do better with more diverse teams. We just heard it doesn't come by itself, so you have to start orchestrating that diversity and then empower your people. Hyper-personalize as much as you can. There are restrictions in the larger companies. The startups can accelerate. You can create the culture you want to be, but do it with the people at the center. You know, watch out for the individual, give them the space, allow them to be innovative, allow them to create, and then basically just navigate your company. And I think if we do that, we're going to win the rich digital race here in Germany. Thanks a lot. Big round of applause for my panelists.
Thank you very much, Marika, Martina, Andrea, and Frank. Thank you very much. Excuse me.